Good evening. Welcome to, I think it's episode 8 now of the CSF Down the Barrel podcast, the videocast. My name is Swally Swede. Not joining me as usual is Dave, the president. He's having some connection issues. So I will be filling in for him until he joins us back. And then we have Michael Stone returning.
Hey, guys.
And then we have Rick. And Rick, you were with the Precision Rimfire, what is it, PRS?
Canadian Rimfire Precision Series and also Project Mapleseed.
Perfect. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Project Mapleseed. We've had Kelly on in a previous episode when we did rifles, so she set us off there a little bit as well. I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors now that I've got them sent to me from David. Cabela's, thank you very much to Cabela's. Every time you round up there, it goes to their outdoor fund, which helps pay for programs such as ours. Beretta. We actually just got a bunch of swag from Beretta that we'll be looking at filtering into the membership, the volunteers, and a few lucky viewers. Stittsville Shooting Range and Vortex Scopes, veteran owned and operated out of America. And so let's kick off. Michael, why don't you remind us who you are?
Hey guys, so I am the clubs director for the CUSF. So I manage clubs across Canada. And I also started the UBC Shooting Sports Club. And my background with precision rifle is just that I've shot a few matches locally around Vancouver. I'm by no means an expert, but I have kind of a perspective of somebody that didn't have a lot of money getting into it, actually hunting for good deals and just trying to have the most fun with the limited budget. Living
that student lifestyle.
Yes, exactly.
And UBC, that was one of the founding schools, right?
Yes, it was one of the first, and yeah, I'm still going.
Perfect. And Rick, tell us about how you got into shooting, and then if you want to segue into your organization.
Yeah, so I got into, actually my brother was the guy that got me involved in shooting. So this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. So it's not a long history with shooting. He took me out to the range, and then I was always into reading. I was a member of the NRA before I could even, own a rifle.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I used to flip through the rifleman catalogs or magazines from my grandparents' house. So it was always out there. I was always mechanically oriented. And then I was listening to a podcast. It was a modern rifleman podcast with Brian Bolivar, and he had Ryan Stacy on talking about this thing called service rifle.
Yep.
And the minute I heard what it was, I said, "That's it. That's the sport for me." And then I started looking around trying to figure out, well, how do I get good at it? And I looked and there was nothing available. There was nothing. And then I heard about this Project Appleseed, which is what Project Mapleseed is based out of. And they taught, marksmanship in positional shooting. So prone, seated, kneeling, and standing. And I said, perfect. Where is it? Well, there isn't one. Then eventually I heard someone was going to have an inaugural Project Mapleseed in Bancroft, Ontario. So that was Doug, who basically kicked off the whole thing. And that's where I met Kelly, Kevin, Mario, who were my co-founders with Project Mapleseed. So Doug kicked off the first one, and about a year later, we rolled out the program across Canada. And that's how I learned how to shoot. And I went to that Mapleseed, and I went to a bunch of Project Appleseeds in Michigan. So Stacey was kind enough to organize and host us for that event. And basically, I took what I learned on Project Appleseed, and I turned that into a national level service rifle competitor. Ended up top 10 shooting with.
Oh, nice! Congrats.
Admire. So yeah, it's thousands of rounds of practice basically, and that's kind of how my involvement in Project Mapleseed started. Said, well, if I'm having this problem, I can't be the only one. And so we got together and said, well, if Doug isn't able to do it, let's step up and bring Project Mapleseed to Canadians, and now we're in our 5th year, and the rest is history, I guess.
How was sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, well, how was 2020 for you? Because I know you've got some stuff coming up this year, hopefully.
Yeah, 2020 ended up actually not too bad. We were able to scramble. I do an annual West Coast trip, a road trip, where I go from Quebec all the way to Vancouver Island and hosting Project Mapleseeds and CRPS events along the way. So we were able to probably just surpass what we did the year before. And then this year, 2021, we're hoping to do probably 25 to 50% more, depending on how the ranges open up. So everyone's a little hesitant to book events, and so were we, just not knowing what it's going to be like. But
Yeah.
things are looking positive. From the CRPS perspective, we actually had our biggest year ever last year, despite the challenges. We had to reschedule a bunch of things, but we had the most number of events and most number of people. So we were able to save the season. And this year's looking to be double what it was last year, if all goes well. So that's the hope. Yeah.
And so how is your organization? Like it's organized around the education side of things, but is there a competition side of it as well?
For Project Mapleseed or
Yeah.
CRP? Yeah,
Or
Project
like, do they kind of go hand in hand?
Yeah, so Project Mapleseed is really all about teaching a new or experienced shooter what it is they're working on, the fundamentals. The fundamentals aren't something that we invented; they're just something that we picked up by listening to what Project Appleseed did, and then condensing it into a one day course. And as part of that training process or instructional process, there are qualification targets that you shoot at the end of the day that basically push you to the limits of what you can remember and what your body can do at the end of a very long day. So we do 3 or 4 of those qualification tests, and those effectively end up being competitions, but really it's you competing against yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When your body and your mind get pushed to the limit, you start falling back onto the subconscious, where all of your instruction basically just falls apart, and you're only hanging on to the little bits that remain at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then we have that limit called the rifleman score, which is a 210 or 80% of a 250 perfect score. And then if you score 210 or higher, you get the coveted rifleman patch, which means that you were able to keep it all together and apply enough of what you learned or what you brought in to score well. And you get 14. So that's kind of the competition side, but really anybody that's ever been to one knows that the last thing you're looking at is someone else's target or someone else's score, because you're just trying to keep it all together. It's probably the best thing I've heard it from a drinking from a fire hose perspective. Perfect. And it really shows you what you're supposed to try and put together from a fundamentals perspective and how it all kind of works, or how it's all supposed to work.
Perfect. Yeah. And speaking of having done these, Mike, you've done these.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I haven't been able to participate in an actual CPRS match just because they really haven't come out to the Vancouver area yet. Just from my understanding, it's the ranges here just aren't a great fit for the matches, unfortunately. Yeah, but there is another series in the Lower Mainland called the Action Rifle Rimfire series, which was run out of Mission for a while. And they've kind of been on pause for a bit. I understand they're having some difficulties with the range. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's a great series, similar to CPRS, whether the production division and the open division, and targets all the way up to 300 yards. And it's a great sponsorship from like NBT and Mystic Precision and a bunch of other great Canadian companies.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Those guys are a great match.
Yes, absolutely. There's a guy whose name I've forgotten, but he has one arm and he's an incredible shooter. I don't know if you ever met him, but yeah, crazy. There's a ton of awesome skill out there. So as a student who's just getting into it, it was a really great start. I went out and bought a used Savage Mark II for just a few $100 and cheap Vortex scope, and I just got out there and started shooting and consistently in the bottom 30-40% of people, but still had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's all you need. The Savage Mark II is probably the most underrated rifle in the rimfire world. From a price accuracy perspective, you can't beat that value.
That's what I shoot.
Yeah,
exactly. That's something I'm hoping to talk about today. Was if there's a student listening to this who's thinking about getting into it and has a limited budget, what would we suggest? As a shorter build.
Everybody loves nice gear, no matter who you are. You always covet what you don't have. The thing that most people don't understand is you're better off taking the money you would have spent and applying it to practice, instruction, and ammo, right? So get good training like through a Project Mapleseed, and then spend the balance of that in ammo. So from a starter perspective, like the Savage Mark II and a Vortex Diamondback Tactical is probably the combination to beat from a price value perspective. Those things can shoot there, and you'd have to spend probably 2 to 3 times that on a rifle to beat the accuracy of a Savage Mark II. Now there are bad Savage Mark IIs, like there are bad $1,000 rifles also. So, but it's unlikely. They've been made for decades out of Lakefield, Ontario. So I don't know how many people know that, but Savage Rimfire rifles are all made in Ontario.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having extraction issues actually on mine. I had it apart here, or I had the bolt apart on the weekend.
And that's probably the Achilles heel of the Savage.
Well, do you know what? When I started reading about that, it was like a rabbit hole. Like so many solutions. I went on the Savage Facebook page and I asked, and people were throwing everything from filing it to filing it to cleaning it to my ammo's too waxy to send it back to Savage. I'll give you another one.
Yeah, usually the fix is an extractor spring or one of those clips.
Mm-hmm.
If you write to Savage, they'll send you a new one to replace it.
Yeah, it's fairly new. Like I don't think it should have the issues it's having right now. So I took it apart, gave it a really, really good clean, oiled the shit out of it, and then next time I'll go, we'll see. I'll bring my wife's rifle as well in case mine acts up.
But you can't beat that. I mean, that's the combo. Like if you're shooting, so CRPS kind of followed on after Project Mapleseed. So when I was instructing people on the line, I said, well, where do these guys go after Project Mapleseed? Now that they've got the fundamentals, where do they go? I mean, the guys will take it, use it hunting, use it plinking, but I wanted to be able to offer something for them to take that skill set and push it further. And that's kind of where CRPS came about, the Canadian Rimfire Precision Series. And that's really from 100 meters all the way out to 350, sometimes more, depending on the range, where you can really push it. And really that's a test of the shooter, the scope's mechanical accuracy, and your ability to fire the perfect shot each and every time within that 2-minute time frame.
Is that how far you would push a rimfire? About 350?
For CRPS, I mean, there's only 1 or 2 stages past 250, so it's kind of one of those. Let's see where this goes for some people. Usually the other stages, so we have 10 stages typically. So 9 out of the 10 stages will typically be between 100 and 225 meters. So it's well within the capabilities of most people, but you do need to understand kind of what ballistics are and kind of what your bullet drop is going to be at a certain distance.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the ballistic side of things with the First Focal Plane guys they were on last episode. Shout out to the First Focal Plane podcast.
Yeah, great guys.
Yeah, no, they were a riot having on. But yeah, holy smokes, it gets technical.
Yeah, it does, but there's online resources available to teach us to. And we're going to be putting out some videos to help people understand kind of, well, what do I need to do to be able to shoot a CRPS match? So as CRPS started, we found that we were it was too much of a challenge, too big of a jump for some people. So we actually created a short course version of that called the Outlaw Precision Series, which is shot out to a maximum of 100 meters, which is basically a 6 to 8 inch drop maximum. So most scopes, your standard 3 to 9, you could just do holdovers without turning the turrets, and that pushes you to all the different positional shooting aspects that you would in a CRPS, except there's less ballistics and wind being put into
less of a factor. Yeah.
So typically any rimfire rifle and any scope you bring should be able to work well in that course of fire. So ORPS is a range or a group of guys hosting it, and they run the match themselves. We take care of all of the other details, and the key thing there is that all you need to do is be able to show up and organize people to say, here's the stage, here's a shooting order, enter your scores, and then upload it, and we'll take care of running a national series for everybody. And that's kind of the tie-in as well to the CUSF that we're going to be announcing shortly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So walk us through a match. Like, how is it a full day event or is it a weekend thing you typically do?
The Outlaw series is basically a half-day event typically. Most match directors or most rangers will run in the morning or the afternoon, or they'll do some fun stages to kind of make a full day of it. So that's typically 5 stages. And the CRPS is kind of the bigger full day event where you show up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, you'll sign in, and then you've got the whole day. You're shooting probably till about 4:30 if all goes well. And then it's 10 stages, typically 2 minutes per stage. And you're firing between 10 and 18 rounds at maybe 2 to 5 targets downrange in varying distances and varying orientations, just to basically get you out of that mode of sitting behind a bench and just pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
You're actually actively scanning, looking for, trying to remember, oh, it's farther, so I've got to adjust my turrets or adjust my holdover. And I've also got to change into an awkward, painful position that the match directors put me onto. Plus, he's also put some sort of wobbly barricade in front of me that I've got to shoot from. So it's really kind of putting all the perfect storm of pain, if you will, per stage. Now, some stages are pretty easy where you're prone, but sometimes you're not, and that's the beauty part of it. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
And so there's 10 stages like that, 2 minutes each, and really it's more of a mental management challenge versus a technical challenge. There's some technical things, but once you've got all of the proper ballistics nailed down, then it's really, can you remember the sequence of the targets, how many hits per target, and what the different adjustments you have to make on the scope are, or what different holdovers are.
Perfect. Sounds good, fun. Like I really like the dynamic side of shooting. That's interesting me more and more and more. Instead of just like I mean, I just go to the range and I just shoot, and most about 80 or 90% of my shooting's just standing. I do a little bit on the bench, a little bit kneeling.
Yeah.
But being a little bit more dynamic would be interesting, I think.
Yeah, and that's really what CRPS. It was really because I was a centerfire PRS shooter, but there weren't any real centerfire matches around me except for the one that they used to have at Meaford. So there was one within driving range for me, and then this became a natural, cheaper outlet. Well, supposedly cheaper outlet because slippery slope. You can spend the same amount, if not more, on rimfire that you do on centerfire, but you don't have to.
Well, when we had Kelly, she just popped up here in the comments saying hi. When we had Kelly on, she was telling me, I can't remember how much her rifle was, but it was
3,000.
It's up there, definitely.
Yeah, but again, if you love it, go for it. I mean, it's like how much do you want to spend on a pair of shoes? It's entirely up to you, right? You're wearing it, so you spend whatever money you want on it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in saying actually that was a mistake I made. My very first precision rifle, I bought a Savage 10. Thinking I was going to get into like real centerfire PRS, and then I started doing the math and how much a weekend would cost me, pushing $200-300 in ammo, gas, travel. That's just totally unsustainable. Whereas a day of rimfire precision is maybe like $40-50, which is much more manageable.
And that's the nice part with centerfire. If you're reloading, it's a whole multi-hour process of prepping the brass, prepping your loads, and going through all of that. So with rimfire, you can just say, you know what, I'm going to shoot that match tomorrow, grab a box of ammo, and just show up and register, and then you're off to the races.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, sorry for the late join, guys. Did we go over how we're collaborating with you now?
We were waiting for you.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, on that note, I mean, rimfire being cheap, students being even cheaper. We're actually looking to do our first little trial outlaw match this summer out in Calgary, and then incorporate the ORPS into our rifle league starting September. So really excited to have you on board there, Rick, and provide some dynamic shooting opportunities for our students.
Yeah, and that was the goal. The same raison d'etre that Mapleseed had is the same reason we started up CRPS, because we wanted to have an affordable, approachable, and welcoming environment for new competitive shooters to get into. And we're a registered nonprofit. Every dollar we make goes back into providing loaner rifles, gear, equipment, working with mentors, and our sponsors. Every donation they give goes right into the prize table, so folks can walk away with better equipment than they showed up with, which is phenomenal. So the response from the sponsors and the shooters have been this perfect storm of cooperation that says, hey, you keep giving us stuff, we'll keep showing up, and we'll keep shopping from you. And it's a great ecosystem that we're building here. Just like the same great sponsors you've got supporting you guys, it's the love is felt. Vortex is a huge sponsor of ours. They are the national title sponsor for ORPS. I don't know if I mentioned that the other day when we had our call. And also for the new series we're launching this year called Rimfire Race Guns, which is basically speed steel. You're standing 10 meters away and you're just hosing steel targets as fast as you can with either your pistol or your rifle. And
that's rifle?
Rifle or pistol. Or you could do all four. We have iron sights, optics in both divisions, so you could actually shoot 4 different divisions in the same day if you wanted to. And it's so much fun because you're basically just hosing targets, and we can talk about that as a separate, what else is going on in rimfire. But the goal is to get folks shooting, and I think we're achieving that. 75% of our attendees are first-time rifle competition shooters, which is perfect, which means we're on the right track. And Michael, like you said, you had a ton of fun, and I think the guys at Action Rifle Rimfire run the same kind of camaraderie and fun, approachable events that we do. It's welcoming to new shooters, young shooters. Actually, all youth shooters under 18 shoot free at our events. So that's another
Oh, nice.
donation. Yeah, so just
Definitely want to advertise that.
Yeah.
Bring the kids and
Yeah,
rope in the parents.
They have to be accompanied by a registered shooter. We don't want to be a daycare center.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's great to see the kids coming out and
so how do you organize your events? Do you set up events and people join, or do people contact you say we would like to have an event in our area?
At this point, so it's a combination of both.
Okay.
So now that we're entering our 4th year, most of the standard locations that we typically do. So as I said, I do a Western.
Just like so, it's repeats, right?
Yeah, usually because we have relationships, and then we'll try and add 1 or 2 new venues every year. So this year, actually, one of the guys from the First Focal Plane, Kurt Rooster.
Yeah.
He's hosting an extreme sniper series match, and we can talk about that.
That sounds very Rooster. That sounds very Rooster.
It's pretty badass. It's the what's it called? It's the CRPS Sniper Series, Extreme Sniper Series at the Twisted Rooster Rifle Ranch in South. So what's cool about this, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Just it's a 2-day event. A sniper series match is different from a CRPS in that we don't tell you what the distance is for any target. So you get the stage briefing before you shoot the stage. You have X minutes to prep, X minutes to shoot, and then you hike downrange to the next stage. And there's a lot of walking, and it's mandatory that you carry everything you're going to use for the 2 days with you at all times, and you have to sleep overnight at the designated campsite. So
awesome.
Finally, some proper shooting. Holy hell!
That's the Vortex Extreme. I've heard they have a similar match.
Yeah, the Bike with Sniper Challenge. So it's old school. It's based on the military, challenges where you're just basically hiking out in the woods. You're trying to find it, range it, engage it, and you're basically
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so that's on the extreme side. That's not the beginner friendly. But it's fun.
Still, yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Something to work towards, right? And it's adding that physical component where you're, rather than just sitting at a bench all day, you're actually like doing something and accomplishing something, right?
Yeah, you got 50 pounds of gear and you're walking with it for 48 hours or whatever long it takes you to finish that course of fire. So
fucking right.
That's on the end. But we could talk about that.
That's pretty cool. Fucking.
But again, we've covered the range. So from a beginner friendly, I'd suggest getting out to an ORPS, an Outlaw match, trying it out. And again, from a gear perspective,
ORPS, that's the Outlaw.
That's the Outlaw series,
okay.
Yeah. And those are again max 100 yards, and those are self-run. If anybody wants to host a match, we provide everything. So we provide the course of fire, you'll have to provide tablets, and you have to provide safety people, obviously, and the props. And the props we use for those 5 stages are 55-gallon drum that every range has, a folding chair that everyone has, 6-foot step ladder, 3 milk crates, and 4 truck tires, right? And that's it. From that, we mix and match, and we create a very challenging course of fire. And you can buy the steel set from any number of our sponsors. They're listed on our website. It's about $400 for the set. And you can.
What's the steel set?
So it's a standard Outlaw steel set. So it's got probably 12 targets and 8 hangers in there. So, and then we'll just tell you where to place it every month. We'll send you the practice score links. We'll send you everything you need to get it started, including all the medals and also the Vortex prize pack. So everyone gets a prize pack from Vortex every month they host, which is awesome. Again, Vortex has done a lot in terms of showing the Canadian sports shooters some love this year.
Awesome. That's really awesome.
And big shout out to Vortex. I mean, they sponsor us, they sponsor you guys, they sponsor Mapleseed. I mean, it's a great ecosystem that they're really supporting in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's awesome, and they're not alone, and that's the best part about this job is it's not a hard job for me to it's not a hard sell for a lot of retailers and manufacturers to want to get behind something like a Mapleseed or a CRPS. So yeah, it's been pretty rewarding. It hasn't been easy. There's a lot of after hours. You got a full-time job, and then you have all of the Mapleseed and CRPS. But again, as Mapleseed grows, that infrastructure of support grows. So we've got regional directors now that are helping run their local their local Mapleseed days. So it's pretty good, and you get the CUSF kind of adding to that volume of people willing to help out. So it's tremendous.
Well, that's what we're doing here, right? We're networking, right, as much as we can.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking forward to having the CUSF members come out, either host their own events or even join in on existing outlaw matches all across the country. And that's the best.
Do we have anything happening on the West Coast here? West Coast, Michael.
I think there's a couple matches in the interior of BC, and I think there might be one on Vancouver Island.
Mm-hmm.
But right around Vancouver, it's a little bit of a dry zone, fortunately.
Yeah.
There's a few ranges around Lower Vancouver, but they're all pretty small. Like they have a pretty short backstop. And the only long one is Mission, and I don't know what they're doing there. Their club executives don't seem to want to match there.
How's Abbotsford? I don't want to get too local here, but Abbotsford seems to be the premier range around here.
Abbotsford is a great range. It's just not very long. But I guess I think they have 100 meters though. So in theory, they could do the Outlaw match. But it's a very sort of like IPSC 3-gun kind of focused club. That's what the IPSC thing is super hot around here. Like so is the precision rifle thing, but really IPSC is where people were putting their time and money.
So those guys would be perfect for rimfire race guns.
Yeah.
Because we run it just like
rimfire, like a speed scale match out at Thompson Mountain near Vancouver. I shot that quite a few times. All of the IPSC guys would come there, and man, you go through so much ammo, especially 9mm. It's crazy. It was about a 400 or 500 round.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it was 6 stages, and you shoot each one 5 times, and then it's 5 targets, but usually you end up shooting about 8 or 9 rounds. So that adds up real quick.
We just did that and turned that into a rimfire event. So
yeah,
that's exactly it.
Exactly, and you can shoot a rimfire too. And of course, the person that would always win would be some guy with raced out 1022, super lightweight carbon fiber stock, kind of deal. Shooting in half the time of the centerfire guys. Yeah.
Rimfire is where it's at. There's so much you can do with it.
And I say that the most underrated part of both CPRS and those speed scale challenges is just the lack of setup and takedown. With 3-gun and IPSC, you're spending half your day pasting targets, walking around in the rain. And I'd say 3-gun. Sometimes you only shoot 4 stages an entire day. That's how long it takes to do everything and set up all the targets. You're shooting twice that amount, and you're undercover the whole time. It's really nice shooting steel.
Yeah.
We'll talk more. Michael, you and me will talk, and then Rick, you and me will talk.
Yes.
All right.
And then you said the next one's in Calgary, so then I guess Dave and you and I can finally meet face to face.
Well, yeah, we're gonna do a little trial series out here during the summer and put an ORPS match with the UFC and Mount Royal. Get some promo footage and just kind of be able to show the rest of our student clubs, I guess, what's involved in a match. Kind of we can document the prep work, the takedown, the actual match itself. People that have experience maybe shooting the match versus people that have never shot it before, right? So kind of get the full perspective and show them.
And the most attractive part is there's no paperwork, 0 paperwork. Just show up. Are you here? Yes. You're over there in group 1 or squad 1, squad 2, squad 3. And then after you finish shooting, you write down your score. At the end of the match, we upload the scores to Practice Score electronically, and we post it nationally, which is awesome. So it's meant to be as easy as possible to be able to run an outlaw match. So, and that's kind of the key to success, is just making it easy for people to I just want to shoot. I don't want to be a match director. I don't want to do all of the administrivia that normally goes into that stuff. So all you have to do is make sure you've got, all of your steel, all of your props, and you've got the access to land. You can even do this on private land if you have access to it. It doesn't have to be at a range because it's rimfire.
How far away is that from happening in Calgary? You said summer?
Yeah, we were actually just on a call last night, kind of discussing the framework for rolling. Do
you have a when? Do you have a where yet?
Where we're going to look at the BTSA range just west of Calgary and talk to them, and no when yet. I mean, COVID pending, right?
Yeah.
So whenever we can put on a decent match, when the regulations permit, then that's when we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And
Go. Hey, do like a seniors division because they'll all be vaccinated by the summer.
I'm not sure how many of them are students.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, like alumni. Come on. Or we'll get some of the teachers out. Doug Rodenbush and Mike Heineck says they'll both come and help you, Dave.
Nice.
Fucking right.
Nice. Good guys.
Yeah, it's in writing now,
Absolutely.
so it's official.
And they're good on their word. They're good on. Those two guys are salt of the earth.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I mean, even all we're looking for is people with connections to ranges. Again, because it's 100 yards and in, it's easy to set up. So if you guys have connections with Abbotsford or Mission or any other ranges in Lower Mainland, you can make that happen quite easily. Because there's really nothing you have to prep for. It's just, hey, can we use the range this weekend? Get your steel, and we'll give you everything else you need. And that's the cool part.
So Michael mentioned a little bit earlier on about rifles as well. I'm just going to segue into that. The previous episodes, we've been quite generic and general about this is rifles, this is shotguns, this is handguns. And then we're getting into a little bit more specifics, like we talked about long distance shooting at the last episode, a little bit about their kit, about loading your own ammo. And then today, precision. And like Michael said, we're going to talk a little bit more about the kit, which is typically just a scope and a gun. So why don't we go into that? Michael, you had some thoughts on the first rifle and the first scope?
Yeah, so there's a few things to talk about. I guess a big one to start with is semi-auto versus manual action. That's a big choice you got to make. And then I guess another question is going to be your glass, how you're going to mount that glass, and then what other pieces you're going to add to that. Like you're going to go for some bags or a bipod, and then also deciding kind of where to spend your money. So say you have $1,000 budget, are you putting more of your money into glass, more into the rifle, or those other accessories? And also the other big part of it, there's a lot to talk about, is ammo, how to pick your ammo, buying a bunch of different varieties and testing them out. It's a lot of work and can be expensive. And then also having to chronograph your ammo. If you're shooting up to 300 meters, you can't trust the number in the box. You actually have to verify that yourself.
Exactly.
Sorry, explain that a little bit more.
Sure, I'll jump into that one right away. So say you buy a box of CCI standard velocity. It's going to say in the box 1050. And there's a very good chance that the velocity at the muzzle coming out of your gun will be around 1,000 to 1,100. But at 300 meters, the difference between 1,000 feet per second and 1,100 feet per second is way more than the difference you need to hit that target. So you need to go out and borrow a chronograph from somebody or have you get your own one. And I bit the bullet, spent $200 and bought one. Which
bit the bullet, nice.
And got one. To verify, and I think it was really close. It was like 1070 for me on that CCI standard velocity, because you have to go into a ballistic calculator. I should say what a chronograph is for people that don't know. It's there's a few different types of them, but the most common is just sort of a box that has two beams of light coming out of it, and you shoot a bullet that crosses those two paths and interrupts that light, and it detects it and calculates the velocity for you. And there's more complicated ones that use like magnets or radar. Really, you don't need to mess with any of that stuff for what we're doing. I'm going to throw that first question to Rick of semi-auto versus centerfire, or no, not centerfire, semi-auto versus manual action, as in bolt action for a starter 22. What would you do?
It's a classic question. So my first statement is if you've got a rifle already, it doesn't matter what action it is, as long as it's reliable, right? So that's the first thing. So a lot more people win with bolt actions because there are a lot more bolt actions showing up at our matches. But we have guys that win with customized 1022, so it's not really an action. It's more of a shooter that knows how his equipment is going to perform. So the first thing is reliability. If you can shoot 250 rounds out of your rifle without any jams or misfeeds or failure ejects, then you've got a good candidate to using it in a match. After that reliability hurdle is passed, then you need to spend time to pick ammo that works best in your rifle. So a lot of people don't understand that they'll say this rifle sucks, but maybe they haven't found the right ammo for it. Unlike centerfire, where you can find that load or create your perfect load data. Basically, you're trying to manage harmonics where it's going to group the most consistently at certain ranges. So you should try a range of ammo, whatever's available to you locally, from the cheap stuff to whatever you want to spend the most on, and get 4 or 5 different brands and models within those brands, and shoot 10 round groups at 50 and at 100 or whatever the max distance is to see what group's the tightest. And once you've found whatever group's the tightest, that's what your match ammo is going to be. And it could be cheap and it could be very expensive, but at least now you have an understanding of how it's going to perform.
So off the top of your head, say we got somebody watching or listening right now, they shoot a certain ammo right now. If they wanted to go out and try some different ammos, off the top of your head, what 3 different brands should they go check out?
So my personal preference of ladders, I start with Blazer. CCI Blazer is probably the cheapest that I'd start with.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd go CCI Standard Velocity. Then I'd go Elite Club or SK Standard. Then I'd go SK Rifle Match, or I'd go Ely Contact.
Elite Force, very popular.
It's a 338 Lapua of Rimfire ammo.
Yes, that's a great joke.
It's for real, because that round has destroyed more of our up close targets than any other round in the last 3 years. It's a 42 grain juggernaut moving at high velocity. So it's the heaviest, fastest round out there. So, but again, a lot of people have won with Elite Force as well. So all marketing hype aside, it performs really well for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but we're talking about the higher end stuff now. So we have a match rifle loaner program and mentorship program that we launched this year. So guys without the right gear or feel they don't have the right gear can say, hey, Rick, I've signed up for the match. I'd like to use one of your match rifles for this event. And I'd also like a mentor to guide me through the process. So we make that process of starting out in the sport a lot easier. So we'll give you a Tika T1X or CZ457, and it's going to be running CCI Standard Velocity because it's consistent ammo. So we're not pitching high-end ammo, because really for a brand new shooter, your ammo is not the biggest factor in you doing well. It's understanding all of the other fundamentals that go into building a proper positioning, doing that perfect trigger pull, and understanding that when I'm at 200 yards, I've got to dial up to whatever mils or MOAs I need, and also factor wind into it.
I think we talked about that in the rifle episode as well, about when you start upgrading. Mine is still bone stock because I don't feel that I'm shooting better than my rifle yet.
Exactly. There's
I'm still the limiting factor in my shooting.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys who are just starting out, they could place their barrel and end up being no better because it's not the barrel. I would say spend the money on finding the ammo that you can afford that shoots best out of that rifle, as long as it's reliable. If it's not reliable, chuck it and buy something else. Right? Put it on Canadian Gun Nuts and say this attack drive or whatever you want to do to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Shoots half-inch groups when I do my part, right? That's the classic one. But that's it. So spend the time, get the best ammo that you can afford. You don't have to spend tons. CCI Blazer, CCI Standard Velocity, and then Elite Club or SK Standard. One of those 3 ranges will work for you, and that's what I recommend. Don't go crazy, because you're just turning money into noise at that point after that, right? And for you as a brand new shooter, you're not going to win no matter what ammo you buy, right? I got news for you.
So I thought it was pretty interesting, Rick, too, what you're talking about ammo last night when we were chatting. Can you explain the classifications of the good, better, best, and how that kind of works?
Yeah, I mean the whole game is all about consistency. So what separates the rounds that an Olympic shooter uses versus a recreational shooter? If like Michael was saying, the chronograph doesn't lie, right? It'll tell you consistent ammo from less consistent ammo or wildly varying ammo. And that's really what the high-end manufacturers do, is they grade their ammo as it comes off the factory lines to say this is, this lot of ammo is grouping at a certain, or it's performed within a certain consistency, a standard deviation or extreme spread of velocity. So it's performing within a narrower band. That gets classified as the higher end ammunition that Olympic shooters would use. Things that fall out of that will suddenly get graded into the different options available to shooters.
But it's all the same stuff, right?
It's typically there's some variances in the bullet shape, and waxing and lubes that they use, but typically they're not going to vary too much. But again, what works well in some rifles won't necessarily work well in your rifle, because you've got to figure out in your particular configuration of how tight that action screw is, and what barrel thickness you're running, and how you're holding that bipod, and how heavy you are, and how much cheek weight you've got on that rifle. All of the harmonics goes into how well it's going to perform downrange, and that's why it's especially just one physics experiment you're doing every time you pull that trigger. So you've got to try the 3 different levels or 4 different levels of ammo and see what works best at 50, 100, and further if you can. And that's ultimately going to, be the best investment you're going to make. After that, if you want to spend more money, so again, Ruger 1022, can't go wrong. Savage Mark II, you can't go wrong. If you want to spend more, then you're looking at the Tikka T1X, CZ 457s, or I think Bergara's got some new micro rimfires that are coming out. We haven't seen it yet, but it's promising to be a real shooter, equivalent or maybe a little bit better than the CZ 457 and the Tikka T1Xs. But that's kind of the next snack bracket up if you want to spend a little more. And those are getting to.
Any opinion on the Marlin?
Which one?
I don't know. I remember when I was looking at rimfires, I kept coming back to the Savage and the 1022. I like bolt action. My wife likes semi-automatic, so I bought those two. But one of the Marlin rifles kept coming up as this is a lot of people's first, or this is a lot of people recommend it.
So yeah, the Marlin 795, which is under $200. That was my first Mapleseed rifle, so I qualified rifleman with that, and a fixed 4-power scope. It's a good rifle, but it's got a lot of things that you got to work around.
Okay.
The Marlin XT22 is a great precise bolt action rifle from Marlin, but there's no aftermarket support. So if you want to upgrade, you're kind of stuck. But it's a good performing rifle. All I'm saying is that you can run whatever, as long as it's reliable, and you've taken the time to find the right ammo for it, you can make any gun perform very well. And if I gave you a rifle setup that costs 3 times more, I wouldn't expect your scores to double, right? It's not the rifle. Why people win is because they understand, all of the fundamentals that go into it, and the wind and the trajectory. Winchester Wildcat from Demir. That's another new rifle. It's around $300. It's a 1022 pattern rifle. It's got some cool features with it. But again, there's no aftermarket support, so you're a little bit stuck there. But it's again, as long as it's reliable, and you've taken the time to find the right ammo, you can have a good time with it. But you got to know yourself, though. If you're the kind of guy that's going to upgrade, buy into an ecosystem that you're going to be able to upgrade, like a CZ T1X, because the Savage you can get a chassis for it, but you stop there, or maybe a barrel for it, but there's no triggers. And but again, it's whatever you like. The only thing holding you back is your willingness to learn and do the best with the platform.
How would you rank that Tikka versus the Savage? And I'm asking for myself.
It's probably, so you don't have any extraction issues, right? That's the first difference. But it's also double or triple the price, right?
Yeah, it's about triple. I looked at the big Tikka. The Canadian Forces call it C19. The Canadian Rangers use it now. And I'm always my military experience back home differs from a lot of Canadians. A lot of Canadians think military means that it's the cheapest possible. I really like the stuff that we use, so I very much if it's good enough for the military, it's good enough for me. So I was looking at the big Tikka that the Canadian Rangers uses. So when I found out there's a 22 Tikka, it kind of got me interested a little bit. But
great rifles.
So many people push the Savage and already own it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Savage, right? It works. I have a Savage Mark II, the FV, the varmint barrel. It's a great rifle, right?
What do you shoot with?
Oh, I have access to a lot of rifles there, Swally.
Well, if you went tomorrow, and there's bragging rights and honor and pride and all kinds of shit at line, what rifle would you take?
Well, money no object. I mean, or within the reasonable.
What you have currently.
Oh, I've got like $5,000 barreled actions downstairs still, Swally. So what do I shoot? I shoot a CZ 457.
Okay, there we go.
That's my day in day out rifle.
Yeah.
I've got an MDT ACC chassis. I've got an IBI barrel on it. But it feels, I'm used to it. It's like an old pair of shoes for me, right? I know exactly what it's going to feel like when I stand up and get on the barricade. But you don't have to spend that. I wanted to because, as part of my role, I've got to be able to, tell people what do I think about the products, and it's fun. So, but again, Savage Mark II, I've got one. I love it. I competed with it. I've won medals with it against higher end rifles. But at the end of the day, when you're 100 yards or 300 yards, it's really the shooter at that point, as long as it's reliable and as long as you've taken the time to find the right ammo for it. And also optics. Optics is very, very important, because if you're shooting past 100, you're dialing up and dialing down, and you've got the slippage and you've got the errors that sometimes mechanically can occur. So you've got to do a tall target test with your optics if you're going to be interested in doing very well at long distance game. So Vortex Diamondback Tactical, Athlon Argos, PTR Gen 2 are probably the two most popular. The Cabela's Covenant are also very popular scopes. So those are the three that I'm familiar with. I'm sure there are many more, but I don't have a lot of trigger time behind the other ones. So those are around the $500 to $700, $800 range. And those would be kind of the ones I'd recommend for someone to say, hey, I've got $1,000 to spend. What do I buy? Vortex Diamondback Tactical, Athlon Argos, PTR Gen 2, and the Savage Mark II. If you had a $1,500 budget, I'd say, Tikka T1X or a CZ457. Try them out, whichever one feels best to you. They're both going to be the same accuracy-wise. They both have probably the same aftermarket availability in terms of support for chassis, which is typically the next thing people do. And then after that, you're in the Bergara territory, and then after that, you're in the custom action territory.
Well, the Tikka and the CZ, they're both European, but what's the aftermarket like? Is it mainly North American?
Like everyone makes chassis for them, KDEX, MD. So I think KRG also makes chassis for them. But
okay, and they're all American.
No, MD
or Canadian. Okay.
Chilliwack, and KDEX is out of Quebec.
Oh, fuck yeah, Chilliwack.
Yeah. KDEX does T1X chassis, which is basically the T3 chassis that works, and that's a chassis that feels right. It's very similar to the MDT XRS chassis, which is more of a hunter type stock versus the ACC, which is the race gun, space gun, aluminum slab-sided, built for a mission kind of thing. Something for everyone, right?
Always, that's the world of guns, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So circling back to Michael there, we kind of got derailed. I know there is some fundamentals of 22 that you kind of want to talk about.
There's a few things. There was actually, I was going to jump in just about the Tikka and the CZ. So that's actually something that's relatively new, right? For CPRS is allowing those models into the production division
for 2021. So they've come out with some cheaper models. So we actually looked at the market and said, there's a whole segment of the market that is getting pushed into the open division, but really I'm not going to say entry level, but they're sporter. They're the recreational shooters that really buy good quality firearms that are now being put into a hyper competitive class called open that we felt should be included in the production. So the Tikka T1X and the CZ457s, not all models, because there's some hyper competitive models that both companies make that are classified as open guns, but the run-of-the-mill T1Xs and CZs are now classified as production, along with the Bergara Micro Rimfire that's coming out this year, and the Bergara Semi-Auto BXR, which is the 1022 pattern rifle that they make, and also all the 4.2s and 4.5.
For some people is that it's like production creep. I think IPSC has seen the same issue. They're allowing more and more expensive guns to get into the production division. Now we have this alien gun that's like $2,000. CZ's making these custom shadows that are fitting in production. Obviously, IPSC is this big multinational, and you're just a small organization that can control these things. But some people could see this as the beginning of that path.
Well, I mean, because we looked at the people buying them. The guys that buy the 4.52s and the CZ 4.55s aren't the hyper competitive guys with the IPSC belts and the Solomon Speed Cross shoes that everyone wears. And I'm an IPSC guy too, so I'm guilty of all that. But they're guys that just love good quality firearms that they want to pass down to their kids. And we look back, and this is our going to our fourth year now, and said, okay, I think it's time to move the 4.52s and the CZ 4.55s into production, and certain models, the 4.57s, which arguably are just nice rifles that people want to buy because they have the budget for, and that they're not really hyper competitive guys, and it doesn't really represent an unfair advantage. Again, if you look at who's going to win, it's the guys with more trigger time, the guys who've spent the time learning the fundamentals, and not the guys who have bought the latest and greatest CZ457 or T1X model. So I think it's the right call. So what we did this year was we moved our
So I've been
limits.
looking at the updated rules as well, and nothing I noticed was that there's a rule stating that the bipod can only be attached to the rifle at a single point. So
Yes.
who is attaching a bipod to a rifle at multiple points?
What this is getting, so I like how you think, Michael. So there are guys that bring those big Caldwell Rest, the lead sleds.
Really?
Well, we want to prevent that. We want to prevent. Also, if you look at F class, they've got the giant bipods that have multiple connection points, and really, it's meant to be a run and gun type environment, and we just wanted to make sure that we were covered. And that's kind of the really for X22 is why. Yeah, we'll talk about the different options after in terms of competition series. But yeah, we just want to make it it's a practical shooting sport. It's stuff that you'd see if you pulled up at a hunting spot and you were unloading the back, out of the tailgate, and you wouldn't see one of those lead sleds out if you were hunting. So we want to kind of keep it in that same spirit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're allowing tripods, though.
Tripods. So we have open division guys can run tripods.
Yeah.
So the reason behind that is tripods are used in PRS, center fire, on a regular basis. So the open class was really designed to give the center fire guys that trainer opportunity, where you've got the 22 trainer that people can most cost effectively shoot. So we let them mimic their style of shooting from their center fire into rimfire.
Okay, that makes sense.
I love shooting with a tripod. I hesitated. I laughed at it for years.
Yeah.
And then in Camp River 2 years ago, a couple of guys had them, and I tried it out, and it's cheating, but it's open. You can use it too if you want to. But it's
it's very satisfying to watch somebody burn half their stage time setting up the tripod and then run out of time.
Yeah. Lesson learned. Don't learn how to use a tripod while you're shooting a match.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
Well, we keep talking about fundamentals. That's something I remember Kelly spoke about as well. Is a lot of people do a lot of bench shooting, but at no point do you actually shoot at a bench, be it in the military or when you're hunting or anything else really. So I mean, if you're looking at just putting a tight little group on paper, then for sure. But if it's any kind of practicality that's to follow, unless you're zeroing a rifle, I stay away from the bench as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, but it's hard though. I mean, in Quebec, it's all bench regulated. There's no offhand shooting. There's no prone shooting. We've got barriers and barricades, so you can't see. We have a no sky rule here. So you're shooting.
Sorry, what is it? A no
sky rule. So they have baffles going down range. So any elevation changes, you'll strike a baffle instead of shooting into open sky.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, but again, that's what we work with. But again, there's ways to practice. I mean, you can dry fire practice in your basement. Shouldering a 20-pound rifle in the basement 500 times will teach you just as well. The trigger pull is a trigger pull, and there's some indoor dry firing training systems you can buy that modify your scope vision so that you can focus on a 13-foot target as well. So there's lots of ways around it. Like IPSC guys dry fire. That's the reality of IPSC is you don't practice at a match. You practice dry firing every day if you want to be good at it.
Really?
So.
And we're actually looking into partnering with iTarget there to provide the students and the clubs discounted equipment and maybe subsidized by us depending on where we go with it, but at least give them that opportunity to practice every day, right? So
I should check out a guy, Dominic, Indoor Dry Fire Training Systems. So he's got basically kind of a pull up target that comes out of one of those little banner stands, and he's got the little he's got the Valcartier military base laid out with different steel placed on it, and you've got the optic that you put on front of your scope that lets you focus at a closer distance, and you can just bring barricades and if you've got a club or a bunch of guys, you can chip in and buy one and get multiple guys to use it. It's pretty cool. Works really well.
And that's what I figured too with COVID, right? These clubs aren't doing anything. They got some money in the bank. We can support them as well, and at least get people out there trying to practice and get ready, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
So so we touched on scopes again, a little bit about rifles. Michael, anything else you want to put on there as far as kit?
I guess we touched on bipods. I mean,
One bipod is all you
one
need.
bipod, that's all you need. And
Is
we-
that do you need, or is that like a nice to
I
have?
mean, you can use one bag instead if you want to. You don't need a bipod, but it certainly helps on the prone stages.
Mhm.
There's always going to be one prone stage with a know your limits rack placed at some distance, and a bipod certainly is. I found to be the most helpful shooting aid there with one small rear bag. That's probably the basic kit. You know, rifle ammo, 2 mags, 150 rounds. A bipod could be a Harris, could be a Caldwell. Something that reliably works and is fast to deploy in a small rear bag. That's
Mhm.
really all you need. Everything else, people will lend you or tell you whether you want it or not.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's again, people get wrapped up in the biggest thing that stops people from competing is the willingness the ability to accept failure, right? You have to go in there knowing that you're not going to win and then approach it from it's a learning process,
Mhm.
and that everyone in your squad is there to help you get the most out of your day. And over the last 3 years, that's what I've seen. That's what the people told me, that it's been a great environment. It's not at all what they expected. It was far more welcoming and friendly than they ever thought it was going to be possible. So yeah. Mike with a small Browning U bag. Yes, Mike, that is the ultimate bag. I'm not going to disclose your secret to success.
So definitely zeroing out
So
a few
yeah, I
stages
guess
in one match. It's also very humbling. I think every
I
new
mean,
team will do that.
I still do it, and it just happens because for whatever reason you forget to reset your turrets, or you didn't engage the targets right, or you didn't have the right dope on your wrist. It's most of the reason why people miss is because it's mental.
Yep.
And if you take enough maple seed courses and practice enough, the fundamentals slowly get ingrained.
so. One thing I wanted you to kind of do for our listeners is kind of walk them through, I guess, what it would look like if you were prepping for your first match and then going out to shoot at your first match. Like, I guess we kind of talked about all the kit and stuff, but putting it all together, what would you do?
Yeah,
You had to
so
give like a
from
checklist,
so a checklist. There's always a checklist before the match and a checklist before every stage that you should go through. Like a lot of people, I mean, where do you find this information? So when you're looking at a match, what do I need for my day? And we kind of covered rifle, ammo, optic, bipod bag, and then whatever snacks or whatever sunscreen or whatever medication you need to get you through the day, right? Whether it's Gatorade, Pepsi, or Coke, or orange juice or water, have that. The next thing you need to understand is if you're shooting ORPS, you need to have your ballistics chart in 25 yard increments from 25 to 100. So for 25, 50, 75, and 100. So, I've got to hold, one target height at 100 yards, 6 inches or 8 inches, right? If you're shooting CRPS, then it's going to be a little bit more involved because none of the targets sometimes line up at exact 5 meter or 5 yard increments. So you'll have to come up with a chart that sort of gives you in 5 yard increments what you need if you're not coming in with all of the charts already prepared for you. And then after that, it's safety procedures. The thing that's most intimidating is they don't want to do something bad and get DQ'd. The best thing is say, hey, I'm a new shooter. I don't know what's going on. If you could walk me through the stage, that'd be great. And most people are more than welcome now to walk you through or say, hey, find a buddy. And again, as I mentioned before, we have a mentorship program that says, let me know or let the match director know that you're a brand new shooter and you'd like a mentor for the match, and we'll partner you up ahead of time. So John will be your guide through the whole match and help you figure out what you need to do at every step of the way. Do you have your dope? Do you know what target sequences? Do you have your strategy for when you want to switch mags? And do you want to know whether bag is in front or bag is in the back? So basic stuff that you need to take care of yourself on the stage. It's really following the stage commands, the RO commands. And that's something that we send out with every match booklet, so you know what the commands are. Shooter, do you understand the course of fire? And you say yes or you say no. 99.9% of the people say yes, even if they don't know it. And they'll ask the question, what am I supposed to do? And that's normal. So don't worry. It's our own brain saying, I don't want to disappoint someone. And then we'll say load and make ready, which means insert your mag, keep the bolt back. And then we'll say, shooter, are you ready? Stand by. And then it's showtime. And then you engage the targets in sequence. And then once you're done, whether it's time stops or rounds complete, you'll stop, and then you'll unload your rifle, remove the mag, you'll show clear, and then insert the chamber flag. So all of our matches are always cold ranges. There's always supposed to be a chamber flag in the chamber at all times.
Mhm.
So that's rule number one. And once you've got that, then you can move your rifle off the line. And then
Do you have a? Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, from a stage prep, it's really just knowing, how many rounds do I need? Do I have the right mags in my hand or in my pockets? The big secret is always load your mags to the top. Like fill them up. If it's 10, fill 10. If it's 25, fill 25. Even if the stage is 5 rounds, you never know what's going to happen. You could eject a live round because it wouldn't fire, and then now what are you going to do? So just load them up and just keep track of how many you're firing. That's the best advice. And then just make sure you're cleared at the end of the stage. And then, once you're done, make sure you're cleared. If the RO doesn't ask you to clear, make sure hey, RO, please clear me. That's the biggest thing. We're all in charge of everyone's safety. And just make sure you're showing clear. And then you're off the line. Reset your turrets and then get your head into the next stage of what am I supposed to do? What's the target sequence? What are the distances? And then get into the prep of what's my dope data obtained on previous engagements, which is basically what's the bullet drop at every target distance that I'm supposed to engage and how many rounds. So that's typically just as simple as a piece of masking tape stuck to your wrist with all the different distances and trajectory differences for each target. Yeah.
Where can you look at this stuff? Do you guys have a YouTube channel?
There are a bunch of YouTube channels out there. So
Any you'd want to recommend?
One of the most prolific ones that actually, if you want to learn about how CRPS matches run, it's WOMFAT, WOMFAT, Matt Huey, and his wife Dory. He's been documenting his ORPS journey all through last year. So he's got all of the ORPS and some CRPS matches and some gear reviews as well. So he'll talk about his journey, and that's a great channel.
Yeah. Once again, what was it?
WOMFAT, 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 like wombat with an F.
And I mean, that's a perfect segue into, I don't think we discussed the upcoming webinar at the end of February with WOMFAT, yourself, Kelly, and Travis. So,
getting into shooting.
Yeah, so excited to be hosting that and having you come on board. We'll have some prizes for the people that do want to come out, and I mean, you get to learn about shooting from the masters and win prizes at the same time. I mean, it's a no lose scenario, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean they're fun matches. I mean, we go through a lot of stuff now. People get intimidated by it, but again, just say you're brand new, and people are more than willing to help out, no matter what discipline you're in. It's a great sport. It's worked out really well for a lot of people. Just raise your hand and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll be the first guy to say that, and then people are more than happy to help you out. And again, if there's multiple, so Outlaw series is that 100 yards and in. CRPS is the 100 to 350 yards and out event. We added a couple of different series this year. The X22 Challenge series is a brand new series we're running this year. That's more of a multi-discipline top gun type event where you've got 2 ORPS stages, 2 CRPS stages. You've got 2 silhouette steel, which is standing NRA silhouette target. You've got 2 rimfire race gun, which is steel challenge. And you've got 2 paper target, so grouping challenges. So really we're looking for the guy with the best fundamentals, and that's more geared toward the semi-auto crowd. That's why it's called X22. So it's really geared around the 1022 pattern rifle with the semi-auto action. And that's going to be a fun series that we're launching this year. And that'll be fun. That's going to be held across Canada as well.
So you've got your Mapleseed, you've got the Outlaw, you've got what was it, X22?
Yep, CRPS and then X22.
And the CRPS. So when do you have each one of these next events coming up?
So if you go to rimfireprecision.ca/events, that'll give you the full listing of all the events we've got scheduled for 2021. And then the other 2 events that we're doing are the Sniper Series, which we talked about already, which is CRPS, but without you knowing what it is you're shooting until you get to the stage 2 minutes before, and you'll have to find it, range it, and engage it. So we'll tell you there are 3 to 5 targets out there. They're roughly over here, and over here. You've got to figure out, is that it? how far is it? Then you've got to calculate your dope, and then sniper spotter pair will engage it. Move on to the next target.
Oh, so it's in pairs.
Yep, it's always in pairs.
Oh.
So you've got a sniper spotter pair. Yeah. So
very cheeky.
Yeah. It'll test people on a number of different levels.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the Rimfire race guns, which is that speed steel challenge. So those are the 4 or 5 different series we've got running this year.
Yeah.
So rimfireprecision.ch/events will give you the full list of events. And again, we've got 23 events scheduled. We're probably going to end up around 30 by the end of the year once the Atlantic bubble kind of bursts and we're able to get out to New Brunswick and show them some love as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing the ecosystem you've created for Rimfire. So props to you.
I'm just a cheap guy. I can't afford to shoot centerfire anymore, so I had to find an alternative. And it's a great entryway. And again, we want to get the family shooting together, get that next generation of shooters. And kudos to you guys for starting the USF. I mean, that's the perfect time to get people engaged and getting exposed to this beautiful pastime. And people understand this, but it's a very Zen-like sport. I'm my most calm when I'm standing at a stage about to fire 10 rounds of whatever caliber it is at a target. You kind of just focus in and it's relaxing for me for some reason. But
it's that intense mental focus, right?
I think that's probably what it is. And Michael, I don't know if you feel the same way. That kind of Zen-like stage.
I don't think I'm Zen at all. I think I'm stressed.
You'll get there.
The buzzer goes off, and you're like, "What am I supposed to do?" Everything goes out the window.
That's like that Men in Black flashy thing, you right? Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I haven't achieved Zen yet. That's the goal.
There you go. And again, we couldn't do this without the shooters, and we couldn't do this without our industry partners. I mean, it'd be just one guy trying to arrange matches with nobody showing up and nobody left to connect. And all we're trying to do is connect the industry with the competitors and kind of bring them closer together. And certainly you guys are doing your part in bringing, your level of shooters together, which is great. So I think you've got that sweet spot of that next generation of shooters coming up, which is awesome. So we're happy to support that any way we can.
How many shooters do you typically get per match?
Depends. I mean, it varies between 30 to 60.
Oh, so quite busy then.
It gets quite busy. Yeah, it gets quite busy. Mm-hmm. Certainly on the bigger 2-day. So we have 1-day events and we have 2-day regional championships. Those are fun. There's a lot of trash talking that takes place, and for me, it's great because I get to get reunited and reconnected with friends I've made over the last 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're just over an hour now.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close. Michael, anything you wanted to add on kit?
I think we covered it pretty well. Don't spend more money than you need to. That's the take-home message.
Spend it on finding the right ammo and training.
Yes.
That's really the key in practice. And just have fun. Mm-hmm. You just go first competition. Don't worry, you're not going to win. That's what you need to tell yourself. Just have a good time, learn lots, and ask questions.
I saw a Homer Simpson quote recently. What is it? The first step to failure is trying.
There you go.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And cool. I mean, I think another thing we can really emphasize coming out here. I mean, I think we got Womfat here himself, and right, like again, just coming to one of these matches and being a new shooter, it's like everybody wants to support you and just get you involved, grow the community, right? So,
yeah. Anybody new shooters? I mean, let me know that you want to attend a match. We have loaner equipment for you. We have. I'm not going to call them instructors. We'll call them mentors that are more than happy to guide you through the rocks and shoals of what it's like to be in a match. Our goal is to help you have a fun day. You're not going to win, so get that out of your mind. And actually, anybody that comes out, we have a stealth division that we added this year where you can just kind of play in your own little sandbox. No one's going to care about your score. You're not competing against open or production guys. You're in the stealth division, so you can sign up for that. We're not going to mention who won. We don't care. It's for you to keep your score however way you want to and just have a good time, try it out, and ask for a mentor and see what it's all about.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Awesome.
I think that's an episode. Dave, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I just again really excited to have that webinar at the end of the month with there, Rick, and excited to see where this OPRS sponsorship or partnership goes with us in the future. So
that's great. It's the next level after Mapleseed. That's the logical progression, is take those skills you've learned and try them out in the real world environment to see what you do. So we're looking forward to getting that competitive bug to start biting, and then everyone's going to be outfitting themselves. Tangent Theta. So Doug's just posted a comment about so we have these fundraising raffles. So we're raising money for all these loaner rifles we're buying and all the bags and bipods. So I don't know if you guys know Tangent Theta. It's a Canadian company out of the Maritimes, and they make arguably among the best scopes in the world. Cool. So we're working with a new sponsor, Cortax Solutions, who have graciously donated a Tangent Theta scope for us to raffle off. It's about a $5,500 scope. It's world class. It's world class. So you can check it out on the rimfireprecision.ca/shop. There's going to be a PVC patch that we're selling for $75. We're selling 200 of them for your chance to win this $5,500 optic. And
that's pretty good.
It's crystal clear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, buy Canadian. And remind me, Canada, that's the same country that has 3 of the 4 longest sniper shots in the world, right?
Correct.
We know what we're doing in Canada.
Yes.
All right. That's an episode. Thanks very much, Rick. Thank you, Michael, for joining us again. Dave, do you want to do sponsors again? I kind of butchered it at the beginning. Yeah,
so big thanks to Cabela, our title sponsor. Make sure you round up when you shop with Cabela's, because every cent that you round up goes directly to organizations such as the CUSF. We got Beretta. Big news out of them buying Holland and donate a bunch of sweet hats to us and some swag to give away to our volunteers as well as our members. So on top of their financial contribution. So again, another great company. Vortex, can't say enough. Obviously, Mapleseed, Canadian University Shooting Federation, CRPS, awesome company. So support them. And Stittsville Shooting Range, really glad to have them. CU Shotgun here. They hosted our team since 2017, and they've hosted the Carleton Firearms Association since 2011. So and now they're giving money to the Canadian University Shooting Federation. So can't say enough good things about them if you're in the Ottawa area.
Yeah, great guys.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Cheers.